or a male principle. So now going on to the next slide. So here is another problem as well. Is this mantra called Gayatri Mantra because it is in Gayatri Chandas? Fair enough. What is in Gayatri Chandas? This is the Brahma Gayatri. Just to remind you here, Gayatri, this anatomy of the Gayatri, there are two ways of looking at it. The way Vishwamitra has seen this Gayatri has Pranava, Vyahriti, and the Gayatri. So that is called Vishwamitra Gayatri. Whereas the way Chaturmukha has seen it is called Brahma Gayatri, which is the Gayatri of 24 syllables. Yeah. And as you know, the Chandas, there is Gayatri, Ushnuk, Anushtuk, Brihati, Pankti, Trishtuk, and Jagati. So there are seven main chandas and Gayatri is the first chandas. Okay, fair enough. So this mantra, the mantra that is revealed to Chaturmukha Brahma, has got 24 syllables, and I have listed those 24 syllables for you. Okay. Now the question there is, if somebody says this is called as Gayatri Mantra because it's got 24 syllables, then the problem that we will have to answer then is, but in Rig Veda, there are about 2,449 mantras in Gayatri Chandas. They should all be called as Gayatri Mantra. Why is only this is called Gayatri Mantra? Okay, so that is a problem. If we take it is just a meter, and that is why it is called Gayatri Mantra. It's part of the answer, but it is not the full answer. So here is the evidence of why Gayatri is celebrated as the supreme being, and hopefully this will give you the answer. Okay, to get the answer to who the Gayatri is, we should go to Chandogya Upanishad, third adhyaya, 12th subsection, the very first verse. You will find this quite familiar because we have done this in various other concepts before. So how does this Chandogya Upanishad talk about the Gayatri? It says, Gayatri va idang sarvam bhutam yadidam kincha vagvai Gayatri vagva idang sarvam bhutam Gayati cha trayate cha. This is the proof for who the Gayatri is, or the Gayatri mantra comes from Chandogya Upanishad, which is part of the Samaveda. Yeah. So what does it say? Gayatri va idang sarvam. Look at your Mandukya Upanishad. What did say? Om iti etad aksharam idang sarvam. What did Purusha Shukta say? Purusha eva idang sarvam. So if you look at that, Gayatri va idam sarvam, Aksharam idang sarvam, Purusha eva idang sarvam. And again, as I told you before, there is always samanvaya in Shastra. They all say the same thing, provided we have the right lens to look at it. Yeah. So here Akshara is qualified as sarvam, Purusha is qualified as sarvam, Gayatri is also qualified as sarvam. And we have seen this before in Gita. Krishna uses sarvam in so many places, 14 places. And he actually gives a definition of what sarvam is in 11th chapter, 40th verse. Perhaps maybe I could call upon one of our friends to recite this. Anybody wants to have a go at this, please? The 40th verse of 11th chapter.
Shall I tell, Madhuji?
Yeah, Shilaji, go on. Yes, thank you.
Namah purastadata prushtataste namo stute sarvata eva sarva anantaviryamita vikramastvam sarvam samapnoshi tatoshi sarva.
Thank you, Shilaji. Very, very, very nice. So the last line I have underlined for our benediction. Sarvam sam apnoshi tato asi sarvaha. So Gita, Krishna himself gives a definition of what that sarvam is. Sarvam is that which has pervaded everywhere, that which has pervaded everywhere. Pervasion in time, space, and gunas is called sarvam. And that is the sarvam is the classic definition of who the Purusha or the Brahman is. So that is your first clue. Sarvam, Gayatri va idang sarvam, says the Chandogya Upanishad. And the same Mundaka Upanishad has also defined Yesha Sarveshwaraha, Yesha Sarvajnaha, Yesha Antaryami, Yesha Yonihi, Sarvasya Prabhavapyayohi Bhutanam. Yeah. And again, we have done this before. Vishnu is given a name as Sarvaha. Okay. So what does that Sarvam actually mean? Sarvam means that which has pervaded in time, space, and guna, which means that which is complete, res completa, that which is full, that which is purna, that which is paripurna. So Sarvam is that which is paripurna. So what does Chandogya Upanishad says? Gayatri va idang sarvam. This Gayatri is paripurna. This Gayatri is complete. So we all know from all that we have studied over the last several months, there is only one being who is complete, who is perfect, who is infinite, and that is the Supreme Brahman. So there is your clue and answer from Chandogya that the Gayatri that is being discussed in Samaveda is Brahman, who is Paripurna. Yeah. And the same in the last verse, the second line of the same word, the Upanishad says, gives you the etymology of Gayatri. And it says, Gayati cha, Trayate cha, iti Gayatri. Okay. So Gayati cha, Gayati means sing. Yeah. Let's not forget, this is Samaveda, which is all about singing. And it says, this Upanishad says, Gayati cha. So the supreme being is the only one who knows all of the infinite Vedas, and he simultaneously sings all of the infinite Vedas. Okay. And Trayate cha. He is the one who protects the universe, and he is the one who protects all that are there in this universe. Yeah. So that is one meaning of that Gayati cha, Trayate cha. But from a soul's perspective, Gayate cha, Trayate cha. You sing his praise, he will protect you. That is why he is called Gayatri. So you have two approaches to this. Gayati cha, Trayate cha, iti Gayatri. So that gives you a clear indication of who this Gayatri is from Chandogya Upanishad. Gayatri, yes, it may mean a name of a feminine principle. But as we have discussed so many times before, the whole of Vedic Sanskrit and Vedic language is etymological. Everything needs to be split open. Chadayanti iti chandamsi. To get into the inner meanings, you have to open it up. And we discussed last week about everything being encrypted in the Vedas so that it can be preserved for eternity. So the encryption is there. We just need the right program and software to decrypt it and understand the meanings. So Gayatri there actually may mean a feminine principle, but fundamentally it is describing a particular attribute of the Supreme Being as Gayati cha, Trayate cha. Okay. So this Brahman is Purusha then, because Purusha eva idang sarvam is what the Purusha Shukta is saying. Yeah. And then if you look at Mandukya Upanishad, it says Om iti etad aksharam idang sarvam. Akshara also is him. Yeah. And it started off with Om. So that is also him. The name of Sarvaha in Vishnu Sahasranama is also him. So this is perfectly scientific, and that is how that's what attracts me to do this reading, because it's perfectly scientific. And once everything is linked up with everything else, and if you put all together, then you get the equation Gayatri equals Brahman equals Purusha equals Akshara equals Omkara equals Sarvaha. Okay. Hope this slide is helpful to understand who this Gayatri of Vishwamitra is. He is contemplating on the supreme Brahman, which is what the Chandogya Upanishad is talking about. Yeah. Now, the same Chandogya Upanishad then goes on to describe who this Gayatri is. It says, Seisha Chatushpada Shadvida Gayatri Tadetad Rucha Abhi Anuktam. So, Seisha Chatushpada. And it says this Gayatri has got four aspects. And then it goes on, immediately says, Tadedad Rucha Abhi Anuktam. So there is a Rik. And this is the beauty of the Vedas. The Vedas themselves give internal evidence. So this Chandogya Upanishad says, look, in Rig Veda, there is a Rik. Which Rik is that? Tavanasya Mahima Tato Jayamscha Purushaha Pado Asya Sarva Bhutani Tripadasya Amrutam Divi Iti. That is what the Chandogya Upanishad is saying. Look, there is a rik in Rig Veda, which is actually describing this Gayatri as Chatushpada, and it is giving this. What is that Rik? That Rik is our Purusha Shukta. What did it say? Yetavanasya mahima ato jayam purusha ado asya vishwabhutani tripadasya amrutam divi. Tripad urdva udait purushaha pado asya iha abhavat punaha. So when you look at this Purusha Shukta and the verse of the Chandogya Upanishad, which itself gives a reference to Purusha Shukta, it is absolutely clear that Gayatri is the Purusha of the Purusha Shukta. Yeah, and the same Chandogya Upanishad then concludes by saying, Yadvai tad Brahma iti idam, Yadvai tad Brahmeti idam. And it says, this Gayatri is this Brahman. Yeah. So I hope I was able to convince you and clarify some of the doubts that some of you had, and you had sent some messages as well. So you need to be aware of Chandogya Upanishad, which is Apaurusha, and it's authoritative. It is supremely authoritative. So the Gayatri there is the Purusha who is Brahman himself, celebrated in the Purusha Shukta. Okay. Now let's briefly recap who this Brahman is. And as you know, Veda Vyasa said the very first sutra there, Atato Brahma Jignasa. And then he said Brahma, and we described this several times. Ata kasmad uchyate brahmeti brihanto hi asmin gunaha. That which pervades time, space, and attributes is Brahman. And Acharya, with various evidence everywhere, concludes Brahma Shabdascha Vishnaveva. This Brahman or Gayatri is Vishnu himself. Why? Vishnu is also etymological. Vishal Vyaptau. Wish means to pervade, to enter, to occupy. To pervade in time, space, and attributes is the literal meaning of Vishnu, which is the meaning of Brahman. Yeah. So when you look at all these evidences, then it becomes very clear that Om is Akshara, is Sarvaha, is Atma, is Gayatri, is Purusha, is Brahman, is Vishnu, and of course he's got infinite other names. So as per our limited capacity, we can grasp a few of the attributes of the Supreme Lord and worship him. Okay. So that is the next. We are taking a stepwise approach here. So gradually we are building up the argument as to who this Gayatri is. So now we can confidently say that this Gayatri is Vishnu, or the Gayatri equals to that supreme being who has been celebrated as Vishnu, which describes an attribute of him, which is he is all pervasive. Okay. Now we build it up a bit more because we have done Mandukya Upanishad. So much we have done about Mandukya, and we got all this Omkara, and we expanded how Omkara denotes so many things. So then it means Gayatri is the same as all that has been described in Mandukya Upanishad. Yeah. What are those? Vishwa, Tejasa, Prajna, Turya. Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Sankarshana, Vasudeva, Krishna, Rama, Narasimha, Varaha, the Vyuha forms of the Supreme, Omkara, Akshara, Sarvaha, Brahmaha, Atmaha, and Gayatri. So they all fall into place when you take a systematic approach of the scriptures to understand who Gayatri is. Okay. HinduKnowledgeAcademy.com will celebrate Vedic culture and present its philosophies to the modern Hindu in an accessible format. Our ancient heritage is our greatest strength. Through preservation and dissemination, together let us spread positivity in the world. Thank you for listening and welcome to Hindu Knowledge Academy.